now. Hello. Okay, so it's what, 8:20, so we've given people 5 minutes to get here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started. So yeah, Megan, just ask the TurboTax people for help. Like I said, I did my own taxes on TurboTax for many, many years, like probably even more than 5 years, actually. This year, I'm actually going to go back to having an actual like certified accountant do my taxes. Just because, one, things like this, and like I never remember to write down like what I need to do next year while I'm doing it this year. Like I never remember to do any of that kind of stuff. And I honestly think that I'm still missing out on some deductions that I probably don't even know are available. So I just want to start out this whole thing by saying I am not a tax expert. I am not legally allowed to give you guys actual tax advice. Okay. So do not take my word as bond. All right. Like I am not the Scentsy tax queen, obviously. Okay. So please see an actual tax professional in order to actually get advice. Okay. Now saying that, I'm about to give you my advice. All right. So to be clear, I know all of you guys who are here live know this, but for anyone who is watching, a lot of people get really confused with this. We are not Scentsy employees. Okay, we do not work for Scentsy. We're independent contractors sort of under Scensy's umbrella, which is why we get a T4A for Canadians, or I think they get a 1099 in the States instead of a T4, which means that that is literally just your lump sum income that you've made all throughout that tax year with no taxes taken off. Again, because we are not employees, Scentsy doesn't take taxes off our paychecks like you would if you were an employee working somewhere for someone, which means we owe our taxes on whatever income we've made throughout the year on the taxable income at one lump sum payment, right? At tax time, which is why we're here. So anything that you've made commission wise will be on that T4A. Any kind of awards, if you've earned that, like the annual sales or the annual mentor, or even like a shooting star trainer award, if you earned the sensational start award during that tax year, all of that kind of stuff will also be in like a different section, like a different line of your T4A, and any kind of incentive you've earned. So even if you've earned an incentive trip, the value of that trip will also be on your T4A as taxable income. Like it's in a different section, but you will pay taxes on the value of that trip. Side note, still 100% worth it. Okay, I just need you guys to know that. So as business owners, in order to sort of offset that taxable income, we get to claim business deductions, okay, that basically go against our earned income throughout that year. So let's say, for instance, you've made $5,000 in 2020, and you have $4,000 of business deductions, business expenses. It means you actually only pay the taxes on the $1,000 that's left over, okay? So that's why business deductions and really maximizing them and doing everything you can legally to write everything off is so important. It will literally make a drastic difference in your tax return, whether you get a tax return or whether you owe, and how much you might owe. It will literally like make or break your tax year, okay? So I have a little disclaimer too. You can claim a loss, you guys, which means if your deductions are more than your income you made. It is possible. You will actually get a tax return in that sense. Again, I'm not a professional. Please seek professional help for your taxes. But I'm pretty sure that it's the law in Canada. It might be 3 years, it might be 4 years, but you can't claim a loss for 3 or 4 years in a row, or the government will actually start deeming your business a hobby, because like you can't lose that money for that long in a business rather than a business. It will increase your chances of being audited, and you will no longer be able to claim any kind of business expenses in the future because it isn't a business, it's for fun, okay? So if you want to do a loss for the first couple of years and get some money, honey, for your tax return, like go be my guest, but just make sure that you're not doing it for more than a couple of years in a row, okay? Now, the next little section of this is just going to be different specific things, but also just sort of examples of deductions. This by no means is like everything you can write off. This is just things that I want you guys to sort of start thinking about during the year that you can write off. Again, seek a professional tax person. And if you also go to the CRA, you can even just Google it, but if you go to the CRA link, there's actually a whole list of things that you can deduct for your small business. So that link is actually in the albums of our team page. I literally have one album. It only has one picture and it's just called tax tips, and click on the picture itself. And the picture's caption has like general tips. It has the industry code, Megan, and it also has the CRA link. Okay. So deductions for business type supplies. Okay. Like Scentsy supplies, literally anything you get from the Scentsy Success Store. Anything you get from Vistaprint, catalog, stickers, testers, new season sales kits, warmer of the month, your PWS subscription, any products you use for samples, gifts, or prizes. This is something that people forget a lot to do. So if you get a bar and you cut that bar up for samples, that's a tax deduction. If you take a counter clean and turn those all into samples and mail them out to your customers, that counter clean product is a tax deduction. Okay. If you buy a new warmer for your new party display, even if it's just like your display at home, since we aren't partying right now, and you take pictures of it to market your business, that's a business expense. Okay. That's a marketing expense. Hi, patience. That's okay. We really just started. So basically anything you buy for Scentsy that you use for your business, which is like all things, right? If it's not just for personal use. So if you're buying a bar and you're warming it at home and you don't have any visitors because it's COVID-19, you can't write that off. But if you're buying a bar and you're gifting it to your hostess for throwing a party for you, that's a write-off. That's a business expense. Office supplies, things like postage, envelopes, basically anything you'll get from Staples, okay? Like those are all business expenses. Pens, printer paper, ink, tape, confetti that you put in your little happy mailers, address labels, everything like that. Those are all business expenses. Even if you buy like bigger things. Yeah, so Haley, the entire scent of the month kit or warmer of the month kit, that whole kit is actually considered a business expense. It goes under advertising. That's what my accountant, like when I had one before, put it under a few years ago. So that's what I've always filed it under. Again, seek a professional. So patient, seek a professional. I said that at the beginning, but I'll say it again. But yeah, so all of that just goes under advertising, marketing. Okay, because it's technically for samples. Okay. So bigger things like printers, laptops, you buy a new MacBook Pro, you get to write those off. Okay. Bigger purchases like that, that have, what's the word I'm looking for? Where their value diminishes over time, like a car, sort of like how a laptop would. You won't, I don't remember exactly what it's called, you guys, but you won't be able to write off like the entire $2,000 purchase, but you'll write off the value of it over time. So this year you'll write off like a little bit of it, and then next year you'll write off a little bit of it, and then you're, so on and so forth. So it's kind of a fun little like purchase for that reason, because it kind of goes against your taxable income for a few years. So anything like that, a laptop, printer, any kind of office furniture, if you buy an office chair, anything like a lamp, like literally any of that kind of stuff, those are all, if they are for your home business, they are considered a business expense. Okay. Now, here's the really fun part, and it's why I tell like even our hobbyists to make sure that they are writing off everything they're entitled to, because all the bills that you already paid before you joined Scentsy, you get to actually write off a portion of those bills because you work your business from home. Okay. So things like utilities, like all of your electricity, heat, gas, any of that kind of stuff, water, your phone, your internet, your mortgage. So for mortgage, if you own your home, you'll actually pay off a portion, not pay off, write off a portion of your interest. Okay, so you can't write off mortgage payments, but you can write off a portion of the actual interest you paid over that year. So you just take your annual mortgage statement, you find out what the interest was, and then it'll go towards that. For rent, I can't remember. I only rented my home for like a year and a half before before we bought this, but I think that it was like full like rent payments, which was kind of fun. So the way that that works is the part of your home, the portion of your home that is dedicated to your Scentsy business as a percentage. So some accountants will do it as a square foot percentage. Some accountants will do it as like you have your one office and you have 10 rooms in your home, so it'll be 10%. So it just depends on your accountant. It depends on what they do. TurboTax, Megan, will calculate all of this stuff for you. So you don't have to worry about like actually trying to take 10% of your utilities. Like you just put in everything like your Rogers bill for internet and it'll just do all the calculations for you, which is what I really liked about it. But basically, so that's what it is. So let's just say that either way it worked out to 10%. So you'll be able to write off 10% of all of those things, all of your utilities, your rent, your mortgage, all of that kind of stuff, which is such a great blessing, you guys, because we pay that no matter what. Like we're paying that anyways. So the fact that as business owners, we have the privilege of sort of like saving some money on all of those things are really great. It's actually why people who don't really necessarily do this for the like the income benefits, like we have like literal, not we, like isn't our team, but I've heard of like doctors, lawyers, like people like that, literally starting a home-based business in order to get those kinds of tax benefits because their houses are, you know, $4 million homes. And they're like, yeah, I'll save some money on this damn utility bill. Okay. So anyways, talk to your accountant, figure out how they're going to calculate that percentage. But again, TurboTax, like your software, if you're using a software yourself, will just do it for you. Business services. So your accountant, like any kind of fee that you pay for an accountant or a bookkeeper, that's a business expense. That's the write-off. What you actually pay to file your taxes is a write-off. Okay, so the TurboTax $80 fee or whatever it's going to be, that will be written off next year. So whatever you pay like this month, you'll write that off next year. So keep that receipt. Any kind of service or software you pay. So if you're using things like QuickBooks, if you're using like a mileage tracker app that you pay for, I'll get into what mileage tracking means. Those are all write-offs. So if you have the Amy app, write that off. Okay. I actually write off Audible as well because I only download books that are pertinent to my business. So I only download direct sales or like mindset type books. So I actually write off my entire Audible subscription. Zoom, like I just paid $200 for the year for Zoom. That's going to be a sweet write-off for me because I paid it in 2020. So like any kind of service that you use for your business, that's an expense. Events, and like events as far as the actual ticket cost for things. I know we're not traveling right now, you guys, but if you paid to go to World Tour, that's an expense. When we pay to go to actual SFR, that will really help your overall expenses. But for now, even just the ticket cost will go towards that too. When we can travel again, any expenses that you incurred while traveling for business is an expense. It could be things like official things like World Tour and SFR and things like that. It could also just be the meeting that your director held in Bowmanville. Like if you had to drive to Bowmanville and you got a coffee on the way, or it was potluck and you had to bring meatballs in your crock pot, like you write off those freaking meatballs and the coffee that you got on the way. Okay. So literally any kind of expenses that you incur. So Haley and I have gone to several SFRs. We're typically roommates. We typically travel together, and all of the expenses, like we always stop at 14 million McDonald's because we always like getting coffees and peeing 400 times on the road, right? So all of those coffees at McDonald's, those are all write-offs. Our hotel costs, write-offs. Plane tickets, write-off. Okay, so any kind of expenses you incur because of Scentsy's travel. Okay. Yeah, meals at meetings. I want to make sure I said that too. So sometimes we'll go to restaurants and hold our meetings there. That meal is a write-off. Okay. And don't forget like random expenses too, guys, like toll fees, which I know isn't a huge problem in Canada, but I mean, we do also have the toll highway, right? So if you're going to Niagara Falls and you want to be there in half an hour and not 2 hours, and you're taking the toll highway, like for Sensi purposes, that's a write-off. Okay. Now, a hack, I'm not going to tell you to do anything illegal or fraud, but a hack is if you know you need to travel to Niagara Falls anyways, make it for business, guys. Set up some kind of business meeting while you're there, okay? So that it becomes a business expense. I'm not saying just say it's a business expense, because if you're audited, you better be able to prove it, right? But find a way to network in Niagara Falls, find a way to make it a legitimate business expense so that you can write off a portion of that trip to Niagara Falls, okay? Basically, to sum it up, as far as like what kinds of things you can write off, you guys, if you buy it or you spend it because of your Sensi business, it's probably an expense. And a basic like good rule of thumb is if you're not sure whether it's an expense or not, just keep the receipt anyways. You can always trash it if it's not, like give it to your accountant. They'll tell you whether or not you can write it off. So you can always throw it out if it doesn't end up being something that you can use. But you can't go the other way, right? You can't not have the receipt and then be like, oh, but I did this thing back in April. They don't care. So just have the receipt. And that way, if it is an expense, great, you have the record for it. And if not, literally no harm is done. Okay. So I always just say, like, be a hoarder. Now that you're a business owner, be a hoarder. Keep every single receipt. If the cashier says, would you like a receipt for that? Always say yes and put it in your wallet. And then literally, if you're like me, at the end of the year, at tax season, dump out your whole wallet and cry, and then organize everything at once. It's really fun, you guys. We could do it together. We have a big cry fest, okay? So actually, before I move on to the gas and mileage stuff, do you guys have any questions about like the kinds of things you could write off? Like
Does
specific?
it matter if you bought it at like Staples or the dollar store?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. I encourage dollar store purchases, actually. Save that money. But no, so literally if you buy it because of Sensi anywhere in the world, it's a business expense. Okay. It could be at the thrift store, doesn't matter. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, so gas and mileage. I've had a lot of people just ignore this part, but you guys, this is probably going to be your biggest chunk of savings. It will make the biggest difference. I don't know percentages and stuff because like TurboTax handles all that stuff for me. But it's the thing that makes the biggest difference when like I pump in all my like mileage gas stuff and it goes, you owe, boom, 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 boom. When it like drops huge, it's always like a fun number to see. So the way that this works is keep all of your gas receipts every time you pump. Okay. Every time you pump. You're going to write off the cost of the gas that you used as the percentage of what you drove for your business. And I'll explain in a second what that means. Didn't get a T4 for 2020 because I didn't hit commission. Okay. One sec. Do I just tell my accountant I now sell Sensi? Yeah, so talk to your accountant about that for sure, patients. I know you won't get the T4A because you didn't hit that commission level, but the government might still require you to actually claim that income, right? So like your starter kit and all of that kind of stuff will count as business expenses as well. So those will go almost right against everything you've earned. So if you're doing everything that I'm saying now, you shouldn't have to owe anything because you should have more than $500. You should have more than what you made basically in business expenses in your first year. I hope that helps. So yeah, talk to your accountant. Just let her know, like, listen, I started Sensi in 2020, but I didn't make enough for them to give me a T4A. Like, what do I do? And they'll just guide you. So for your gas, you're going to use a mileage tracker. Does anyone actually do that right now? Do you track your mileage? Nobody? Haley kind of, yeah. I'm not the driver, so it's actually Daryl who tracks the mileage. So like I get to sort of be lazy about this part, but if you're the driver in your household, then you need to track your own. He uses like this. So he just keeps this in the glove box. It actually has a little mileage tracker in it. There's like crap in it. There's like leaves or something in it. You can literally, I don't know if the Scentsy Family Store sells these anymore. We bought them in like bulk years ago, so we just still have them, but you can literally just go on like Google and just Google mileage tracker and print one off, or you could just take like a notebook and make your own. Okay, you're going to want date, you're going to want location, purpose of trip, what else, oh, and total kilometers driven. Okay, so on January 1st or now check your odometer and mark it down. Okay, then on December 31st, you're also going to mark what your odometer is at the end of the year. Every time you drive for business purposes, I don't care if it's to go make deliveries, if it's to go to meetings or events, if it's to go to Dollarama to go get new Sharpies, that's a business trip. Okay, so all of those kinds of things are business trip. If you're going to have coffee with a potential recruit, that's a business trip. To be official, it just has to be, you have to talk about Scentsy and you have to have a record of it. Okay, so don't overthink this one too much. So mark it down every time you drive. So you'll have a little January 1st, what your odometer reading was, and you're going to have all of your trips for Scentsy. And then on December 31st, you're going to have what your final odometer reading is. And basically, let's just say you drove 2,000 kilometers in 2020, and 1,000 kilometers of those were for Scentsy. So that means half of what you drove was for business purposes, right? That's going to mean that all those gas receipts you kept throughout the year, you're going to write off half of those. Okay, so say you spent $1,000 in gas. You guys, you can tell I'm not a driver. Like I have no idea what gas even costs. Let's say you spent $1,000 in gas. Well, you get to write off half of that, right? So that's actually $500 that goes towards your tax deductions. So it's really like, it's a big deal. So make sure that you're keeping good records for your mileage tracker. There are apps that you can use that like automatically track when your car moves. I don't know. It's like we're living in the future. I've never used one of those, so I don't know exactly how it works, you guys. And you could just check on your app store what kinds of things. Most of them are going to be paid apps, but if you like the convenience of that, or you're more of a technology person, if you tend to use Google Forms over pen and paper, that might be a better option for you. Again, I don't know how they work exactly. Now, if they're paid, that's a write-off, right? So just keep all of that kind of stuff in mind. But yeah, they track like every time your car moves, and then you just have to go in and basically swipe left or swipe right, depending on if it was a personal trip or a business trip. Okay, so your car will automatically record all of your movements, or your phone or whatever, but that just means that you always have to have your phone. Like it just, like, what if your husband is making deliveries for you? Like, so that it can kind of get a little bit tricky. I think I am more of just like straight up pen and paper kind of girl. Do you guys have questions about that?
Yeah, so if you said we needed to keep like a good record. If we're meeting someone for coffee and we like claim that gas and coffee as like a business trip, how do we prove, like, if we're audited, that we used gas to get coffee?
Well, it's just your total gas like costs for the whole year, right? So you didn't pump gas to go meet Tony for coffee. You pumped gas to have gas in your vehicle to live your life. But that trip you spent, like, you drove 5 kilometers to Tim Hortons and back. That's the portion you're going to write off, right? So it's the total kilometers added up throughout the whole year. So you don't have to prove that you pumped gas specifically to go meet someone. It's just the percentage of the kilometers you drove with your overall gas prices or gas costs.
So if I'm keeping track, like I'd say on March 11th, I drove 5 kilometers to get coffee with Tony. And then if I'm audited, they'll use that.
They're going to use your mileage tracker. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need your gas receipts. Here, let's see if I can find, like, that's why my like tax returns are such a hot mess. Oh no, they're all in my like other file. They're like this fat because of all my gas receipts just like shoved in there. But yeah, so they're going to use the combination of your gas receipts and your mileage tracker in order to prove that. So if you are just like making crap up and you're like, I drove 5,000 kilometers for Scentsy this year, but you have no mileage tracker, and you're audited, then they're going to basically take that deduction off. Like you're probably not going to go to jail. I don't know how it works, but you're definitely not going to be able to deduct that gas cost. Okay, if you go to jail, I'll write you every month. Just kidding. Don't go to jail, guys. Okay, so does anyone else have any other questions? I know the gas thing, like it's really confusing to sort of wrap your head around it. That's what I thought too, Megan. I was like, do I only keep the gas receipts on the days we drove for business? Like it really, I was like, what? But once you do it like one time, it makes so much more sense. No jail, just penalty. Thank you, patience. Woo! We don't want that either though, okay, guys? No tax fraud up in this house. So I wanted to make sure I got everything. Yeah, so about good records, there's a couple different ways that I have seen people stay organized with this. What I usually do, because you guys know I'm a mess and I just do it as I go, is actually take an order form, like a monthly order form. So at the top of the order form where it would say like customer name, just put March 2021 business expenses. And every time you crack a bar for samples or you put a cent circle in a happy mailer, like that kind of thing, write it down on your little order form. It's not super official, okay? You're not going to use this in your actual tax documents, but it's something to help your brain wrap around all of the things you're using for business, because it can get out of hand real quick, right? If you're like, oh, thanks for picking up the order, I threw a cent circle on it for you, and you don't mark that down, you're gonna forget about that. And yeah, it's $4, like who cares? But $4 added up over the entire year is going to make a big difference in what you owe for taxes. So keep good records. So if you are a pen and paper person, the order form might work best for you. If you're more of a technology person, do it on Google Forms instead. Google Forms you can access through your Google account on your computer or your phone, which is why I actually really like Google Forms, because I can literally just click on my Google Drive app right on my phone and access all of my forms from there. So if you tend to do most of your work on the go, if you work outside of the home, Haley, like if you have little kids and you can't always just run to your order form that's in your office because you're putting the baby down for sleep, like just use your Google form then, or use a combination of both and just merge them. Like there's no black and white way to exactly do this, as long as you're keeping records that work for you and make sense for you. That's what's important. So then what you're going to do is the opposite of what I do. Okay, here's my advice of like, don't do what Kate does. So you're going to organize your stuff monthly, okay? Or you're going to meet me for the Cry Fest in 3 weeks. You're going to print all your receipts monthly. So anything, your warmer of the month, scent of the month stuff, your PWS receipts, if you purchased any event tickets through Scentsy, like that kind of stuff. Also any kind of business supplies and the stuff that you were recording on your Google or order form. Okay, so it's really easy. Actually, the way that the workstation is set up now, it never used to be this easy, but you can actually go into, especially if you're going month by month. So you could go back to January 2020, but you're going to do it for the month that you're in or that just finished, okay? Not start at January 2020, because that's what I'm about to do. But you could go for the month that you need. You can customize the date to just include that month. And for customer name, you can actually go in and search your own name. And it's going to pull up all of the things that were ordered under your name, whether you are the host or the customer, okay? And that way you can actually go through and just go print. And then you're going to compare it to the stuff that you were just writing, to the records that you wrote down. Okay, so you could go, okay, oh, there's that circle I gave away to what's her face, right? There's the 6-pack that I used to send out all the new scent samples to all my VIPs, right? And you could literally write on, I don't have a receipt because I don't print anything out, but you can literally write on the receipt like samples or host gift or prize or whatever, right? And then just tuck it away into something like this by month. Okay, some accountants will want it tucked away by category instead, so like marketing, advertising, that kind of stuff. But if you don't know what you're doing, and if you don't know what category it goes into, your accountant will help you with that eventually, but at least have it done monthly, so it's at least a little bit organized, and then you could go forward from there. And tax season doesn't take you 2 weeks to get organized. What else about records? I think that's it. Yeah, so just write down every time you use something when you use it, or else it will be forgotten if you're anything like me. Okay. Now, general tips for like your finances. Again, I'm not a financial expert. Okay. I'm not legally allowed to give you actual financial advice. Go see the help of a professional, all of that stuff. All right. I've talked about this before, you guys, so I'm just going to go quickly through it. Patience, I did talk about this on the Facebook group, so this will be new to you. Again, this is just advice like from a friend to friends. Okay. Have 10% auto transferred straight from your pay portal to a different savings account for tax purposes specifically. So, like I said on the Facebook Live, you guys, we are humans and we make human emotional decisions. Okay. We can have the best of intentions. We can be super disciplined, but when that money hits our bank account, like make it rain, like sometimes that just happens, or sometimes life gets hard, especially you guys during a pandemic. Like we didn't expect any of this to happen, right? We couldn't have foreseen any of this stuff to happen. So if you don't have it, like technology making the decision for you, it's going to be very easy for you to go, oh, it's okay, I'll just spend it now and then I'll put double away next month. And then that never happens. So that's me. I am not disciplined with money whatsoever, which is why I have to do this. So when my money hits my pay portal, I don't even give myself the option to transfer it to a savings account, or it probably won't happen at least 50% of the time. So pay portal actually allows you to set up percentages of transfers. So I have 90% hitting my checking account, and I have 10% going right into a TFSA in my Tangerine account, which means I don't have debit access to it. I can't touch it. I have to physically transfer it to my TD account if I want to access it. That's going to take a few days. And like, I don't need the money that bad, basically, right? If that's the case. If it's an emergency, I can't access it anyways. So I better be like borrowing off of my mom or something. So just take that sort of decision away from yourself. This will act as a buffer for tax season. So as you make more money with Scentsy, you're obviously going to owe more taxes. You're also going to have probably a little bit more deductions, but you're going to get to the point where you couldn't possibly come up with enough deductions in order to not pay out a buttload of money, right? So I make a decent full-time amount with Scentsy at this point. I'm not going to have tens of thousands of dollars to write off business expenses, and nor do I want to, because I want my like income, my tax assessment to actually show that I make money for things like mortgages and things like that in the future. But it also means that I usually owe at the end of each year. So that 10% that I've squirreled away into my TFSA every month, I don't have to stress out about it at tax season time because I know I'm going to owe, and I literally just get to like transfer it over to there. If you've squirreled away more than what you need, it basically becomes like your own little personal tax return, right? So if you squirreled away all that money and you don't need to pay that money to the government, like, yay, go take a trip, like go do whatever you want to do. That's your money, or put it into an RSP, like do whatever you want to do. But at least have it there to have the option so that you're not screwed in March, right, of next year. I will also, I'm also going to suggest, sorry, I was just reading through my notes, to separate your personal and Scentsy incomes completely. Okay. I used to do that. I actually stopped doing that because it was just easier to use my Visa debit to like close out parties and stuff like that, which meant it was easier for my customers to e-transfer it right into my normal checking account. But that gets very like convoluted, right? It gets very, I'm like, where did all my money go this month? Because it's just so easy to be like, I'll just add that half price item for myself and I'll just get this for myself, right? Or just whatever. Or I had someone actually, a very good customer of mine, a good friend. I don't do this for many people at all, but she didn't pay me for a warmer that I'd given her out of my stock. And she's like, did I ever pay you for that? And it was literally before Christmas. And I was like, no, bitch, you didn't. So like, it was fine. Like, she wasn't trying to steal it from me. But I was like, okay, well, pay me now. And she's like, yeah, sorry about that. But like, if that would have been in a Scentsy account, and if I would have actually been keeping good records of that, I would have noticed, right? Because I would have noticed that I'd paid for that warmer, and I never got paid for that warmer because it would have actually come out of my my account for Scentsy. So I'm actually going to be opening a new no fees account specifically for Scentsy. And it's going to have some kind of Visa debit attached to it so that I don't have to worry about this anymore. So it's going to be much easier to track your expenses, keep everything organized in that sense. You won't have these kinds of issues, right? Orville himself says, don't spend family money on Scentsy. Like instead spend Scentsy money on family, right? But you can't really know what's family money and what's Scentsy money if it's all smushed into the same everything else, okay? Don't ever go into debt because of Scentsy, you guys. We've all heard like you got to spend money to make money. That's true in a sense, but don't be like spending more than you're making. That's ridiculous. That's a hobby, right? That's not a business. That's a hobby. If like Megan, do you spend more crocheting than you make crocheting? Like probably, right? Yeah. Yeah. Like no offense against your crochet skills. I'm sure they're bomb. But that's what a hobby is, right? When you spend more than you make. A business makes you money. That's literally the entire purpose of it. Even if you're a hobbyist, even if you're doing it just for the discount, what's the point of a discount if you're spending more than you're making? Okay. So make sure that you're just not buying all the pretty shiny things in the Scentsy family store before you've made all the pretty shiny coin in the bank account. Okay. So basically, like kind of the rule of thumb is spend 10%. So if you made $100 this month with Scentsy, like whoop whoop, put 10% for tax savings, put another 10% for business supplies. So like now you can afford postcards and labels. And then the rest of what you didn't spend for business supplies is your actual profit. Okay, so something that I want to do going forward is to actually like budget out like a real adult, you guys, what my business expenses and like will be for the next month. So we know that we get paid on the 9th of every month. So when payday hits, I know how much I'm going to make, blah, 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 blah. Obviously my 10% goes to tax savings. 10% is going, well, not necessarily 10%, but 10% definitely goes to tax savings. Then I know what I'm going to be spending as far as my PWS, as far as my warmer of the month, and as far as my Scentsy Club subscription is coming up that month, right? So I'm actually going to take that out of technically what I made, because that isn't profit. That is going right back into my business, right? And then I can take an amount that I'm comfortable with and put it also towards the other things that are a little bit more intangible. So whether it's team gifts, it's mail, like postage, Happy Mail for customers, the little foil bags I buy for my mailers on Amazon, the confetti, like all of those little biddly things. Yes, they are expenses, but you don't want to screw yourself by not putting it into your budget ahead of time and then just buying it as you go. I'm talking to myself, can you tell? And then buying it as you go. And then at the end of the month, you're like, oh, where'd all my money go? Right? Like, and now I like can't pay my bills because I've just like dilly-dallied in random spending. So I'm actually going to take an amount that I want to spend, no more, no less, that kind of thing, and put it aside in my budget for those kinds of expenses. And then after that is profit. After that, you can transfer over whatever you have left from your paycheck into your family money, because that is what you made for profit. That is your income. The rest is still business expenses, right? That makes sense? Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I think that that's basically all of the general kind of tax advice and finances sort of advice that I had for you guys. Don't be like Kate, okay? Organize monthly. Write it down as soon as you use it. Keep all the receipts, all of them, like a hoarder. Does anyone have any questions about what to do or not to do? Lots of those.
I didn't realize that you could do a percentage in the pay portal. How do you do that?
I don't remember.
Okay, cool. I'll look at it.
I didn't write it down. It was really easy though. And the pay portal people also have online chat. So that's how I did it. Because I was like, I want to separate my stuff. And the dude was like, all right, here you go. Here's exactly how you do it. So you just need your account info. Like what would be on the bottom of a check or whatever. So Tangerine doesn't, like, I don't have checks. But it's really actually easy to find that on Tangerine. It shows you right on your account what your account number and institution number is and all that kind of stuff. So I think you could actually break it down even further. So you could do like 3 or 4 different transfers if you wanted to. So if you wanted some to go right into an RSP or some into like a travel fund or something like that, then you could do that. That's something else I do too, you guys, is I actually have on top of what goes directly from my pay portal into my tax-free savings account, I actually have a separate account. I have 2 separate accounts actually in Tangerine. One is just for Scentsy travel. So it actually comes right out of my checking account. It's an automatic, like an automatic debit. It's like $20 a week. Don't even notice it because it's like less than a coffee a day. And it automatically goes into a Scentsy travel account. Obviously, like it's not really moving around much right now. So it's just kind of gaining, which is sort of nice. But it's what allows me to be able to afford things like SFR when I don't go there for free. So part of incentive trips, you guys, just so if you don't know, is you can actually take Scentsy Family Reunion as an option. So if you really want to go to Scentsy Family Reunion, but you can't ever afford it, or maybe you only earn for one, that's usually why I go, is if I earn for one, I'm not going to go to Puerto Rico without my husband. So I usually go and take the business trip instead. So if I'm not going for free though, I still want to go, and I don't want to come up with $1,000 at once in order to make that happen as far as flights go and hotel and all that kind of stuff. So all the money that I've squirreled away for the whole year, coming right out of my checking account, it goes towards that. So just little things like that, that you even do in your personal like finance world or personal lifestyle type stuff is going to help you like make your business life easier and less stressful. And that's why I always say, like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that you can't afford it, because everyone can afford to like scroll just a little bit away, even if it's $5 a week. It doesn't have to be $20 a week, and it's going to make a difference at the end of the year. So does anyone else have any other questions? Is there anything I missed as far as actual like income tax questions go? Megan's fighting with her husband. You stop it, you two. You calm down over there. He's throwing stuff at her. It's a brawl. It's a brawl. It's like WWF. Like a chair is going to hit her in the back of the head next. Folding chair. Could you imagine though? Like that would be classic. Like this is recorded. Keep it in mind. You too. Okay. No one else has any other questions. It's now just becoming a flighty fest. I'm probably going to stop recording.